I'm not just writing history, I am making it.
I have the brain of a historian and the clapback of a comedian.
You better come with sources, because I always check footnotes.
Welcome back to another episode of Historians on Housewives. You're here with me, Casey.
Jessica, Dr. J. Mill, the millionaires.
Max Spear. Still waiting for my paycheck, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it's really exciting today because we're here with Dr. Martina Baldwin. And usually people call into our studio, but she is another one of our local Orange County people at Cal State Fullerton. So we actually have her here live in studio with us today. So
I'm so excited to be here in person.
So since Martina is already here, I'm going to give you a little bit about her bio before we do the rest of the introduction. Martina Baldwin is a media studies scholar who primarily focuses on television studies generally, reality television specifically, and media literacy. She's a full-time lecturer in the Cinema Television Arts Department at Cal State Fullerton, and she studies television from a critical perspective. She's interested mostly in comprehensive studies that include political economy, brand studies, and content analysis. She also studies and teaches critical media literacy. So welcome, Martina.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk about Housewives. And Bravo.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Before we go any further, would you like to share your Housewives tagline?
I teach for a living, but I read as a hobby.
That's good.
Bravo.
Was that, Jessica?
Bravo,
No-
bravo. No pun.
No pun intended. Okay.
Maybe a little pun, but no pun.
So good.
So this is a super special episode because this is our holiday themed episode for the season. So Jessica, can you confirm that the Jingle Bell sweater is present?
As noted in episode 3, we talked about when we would do the holiday episode that it would be the time that Casey was allowed to wear her favorite thing. And she indeed is sitting in front of me in the most interesting, the most interesting antique Christmas sweater, sweatshirt, vintage.
Can you see the
No,
different textures?
You can see different textures. You're not sure if it's a sweater, a sweatshirt. You can see bows that are
Almost a rag in some places at this point.
Yeah, the bows are both. Is it called applique? What would we talk
I think
about
it is.
this?
I think it would be applique.
Applique,
A lot of scrunch.
a lot of scrunch, ruching, if you will. But oh wait, gentle listeners. Oh wait, I must confirm that Max as well is in his holiday gear. He has on a festive blue and white Batman holiday sweater. I myself did not wear my holiday goods, but I did just go to UCLA 2 days ago. And as a Bruin, 2-time Bruin, I have my holiday present for myself, a nice little, very soft feeling.
Is the Alumni Association paying you for this ad?
No, I just love UCLA. It's so beautiful. It's where dreams are made for me. Other people go to Disneyland. I went to UCLA. Mm-hmm. And our guest is dressed in her intellectual knowledge of Andy as any kind of cultural icon we want him to be.
You really spun that. I like it.
Right. It's my job.
One of the things Martina is going to talk to us about today is Andy Cohen and Bravo branding. And so in that vein, I thought I would give us a little bit about the branding of Santa Claus in the United States to get us going.
You're such a historian.
So the Santa Claus that we think of today in the, almost like that Coca-Cola Santa Claus, the kind of rosy cheeks, the red and the white, very jolly. That's really not the way Santa was depicted, really until the 20th century. And so before the 1920s, 1930s, you could see Santa depicted as everything from like a tall, gaunt, skinny man to kind of spooky looking elf. Santa's even been seen in bishop's robes or Norse huntsman animal skin. But the way that we even start to get our modern image of Santa actually comes from the American Civil War and cartoonist Thomas Nast. So Nast drew really the first, what we would think of as a modern Santa Claus for Harper's Weekly in 1862. And in these depictions, Santa is rallying around the Union Army. He's in like the red, white, and blue stars and stripes, kind of the way you would think of Uncle Sam. And he did kind of a few of these through the 1860s, 1870s. His last one that he did, I think, was in 1881. Is that right? Yeah, 1881. And his 1881 Santa was his most famous, and that one's still reproduced over and over again. It's also with Thomas Nast that we think we get depictions of Santa at the North Pole. So after the Civil War, obviously. But even if we think about the Santa image and Christmas in the United States, it's not actually an official holiday until 1870. And this is something that comes from President Ulysses S. Grant, and it's one of his methods to try to reconstruct North and South. And so what we actually get is we don't even have all of the states of the Union ratifying this federal holiday, Christmas as a federal holiday, until the 20th century. So we get, I think, Oklahoma's the last state in 1907 to ratify. So it takes decades for all the continental United States to ratify Christmas as a federal holiday, right? And it only really gets going as a means of reconstruction. And that's even before you add Hawaii and Alaska. But this image of Santa Claus as being a part of the Union and then transforming is kind of part of this story. And then, of course, by the 30s, we get Santa Claus in that Thomas Nast vein for Coca-Cola. And so Coca-Cola Company draws on these Nast images for their Coca-Cola Santa. So Santa has his own history of big marketing and branding in the United States.
Yeah, so then Coke's branding then, in effect, brands Santa for the entire United States.
Well, Nast does first, right?
Yeah,
so,
but they,
right.
in using him, in using his drawings, wow.
Right, and so it's really, and so it's suspected that with Nast is where we get North Pole Santa, which is really what we associate with now, right?
Well, you know what's interesting? I thought you were going to go a different route with the branding of Christmas and Santa Claus, and how, yes, it is a 19th century kind of consumption invention. I had no idea it was related to Reconstruction. But going to Martina's point about, Coca-Cola, now I'm thinking about the fact that you can get Coca-Cola anywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. You can get Coca-Cola where you cannot get water, fresh water. And that also kind of, to me, thinks about this kind of exportation or consumptive economy that we kind of export to the rest of the world. Even though Christmas was other places. And, there was, images of Saint Nick or whatever he was called, like I'm rusty. Now I'm having the pregnancy brain and I'm not even pregnant. But I kind of thought, that's like something about consumption, world consumption.
Totally, it's global. It's not just domestic. It's a good
right. And so, but to me, this is why I think of Andy Cohen as our Santa Claus of Bravo. Right? Because Bravo is global at this point. You can tune in to live feeds on Twitter and people are freaking out. Like, how is my platform going to work? I'm not in the US, right? And so, Watch What Happens Live will give them, you need this website to watch Bravo in the UK or whatever, right? And so there is, I think, a way that Bravo and Andy Cohen are becoming very global too.
Culminating in what's going to be the new annual tradition of BravoCon.
One of our holiday events, obviously.
Okay, and we will literally be there with bells on.
You guys are going?
Yeah. Yes.
How could we not?
Well, by the time this comes out, we will have just gotten back. But yes.
What? How did you get tickets?
Well, this was a great story. Well, Max and I woke up really at the crack of dawn, our time, because the tickets were going on sale on East Coast time. Max set his computer time for East Coast feed so that his clock made it seem like he was in New York. And I stayed on California time, and we were racing for tickets because we were like, well, one of us is going to get them. We told Jessica, go to the gym, we'll handle it. And
I totally acted like the talent. I let the producers take care of it.
You're going to?
Of course. We are a team.
I'm very jealous. Very, very jealous.
So even after Max did all of his time finagling, I got into the queue before him. And even as I was going through pressing the checkout button, they had run out of tickets. So we got like the last tickets for BravoCon.
They
I don't
sold
want
out.
to rain on your parade. I do think that was a gimmick.
Totally.
Okay.
But I am thrilled.
I'm so thrilled for you.
A total gimmick, but
Okay.
we're still
You don't.
going.
Yeah. That's part of Bravo's genius, though.
So
Okay, so BravoCon.
So
So
Andy
crazy.
is really like our Bravo Santa Claus, right? He's keeping the Bravo spirit all year round. You never know what kind of gifts he might hand out.
He does give you a lump of coal if you're bad, or sometimes
Or
he gives
cancels
you a
your
show.
cancels your
Shady.
contract.
Yes.
So anyway, I feel very comfortable with this comparison of Andy Cohen to Bravo, and I feel like Martina Baldwin is going to be able to help us really kind of flesh out this evolution of Bravo. It won't be as long of a history, obviously, as of this commercialization marketing of Santa Claus, but certainly I think that there are some parallels.
Yes. Have you guys not talked about the history of Bravo?
No,
here yet?
never. So
I
you're
brought my
our
laptop.
first.
I should get it out because I don't want
Sure.
to get the years wrong.
Well, so our next question then is, how did you get into Bravo viewing? So what is your personal history with reality television then?
My personal history with reality television starts at my master's level. I wrote a dissertation on the use of the word bitch because I was interested in the way that Paris Hilton et al. Were sort of seeking to reclaim this word. And I was initially very offended by it because I was a different person when I was 22. And that's what led me to reality television, is actually The Simple Life and Paris Hilton and that type of thing. And then that's where I also found, during my thesis research, my interest in media studies generally, because I was a mass comm master's student. So when I finished that thesis, I thought, I want to do more with this. And my advisor said, well, you can't do more with this in mass comm. This is a media thing. And so I pursued it in that way. And before that, I guess, 2006, while I was in my program, is when Real Housewives of Orange County debuts. And I live in Orange County. I have always lived in Orange County outside of going to undergrad and my doctoral program. But I was really interested in how it would be depicted. We had the OC prior to that,
Right.
which was fictional. But, well, actually, it was a reality show, wasn't it?
Mm-mm.
No,
No,
it was scripted. Yeah, I'm thinking of The Hills or something like that, which I didn't watch.
Don't
I know,
confuse
don't conflate
Seth
the two.
Cohen.
I know it, I'm
Seth
sorry.
Cohen with Brody
Ooh,
Jenner.
I know.
How
it.
dare you?
I know. Blasphemy. So I was interested in it for that reason. And reality television, had started at the turn of the 21st century, the Survivors and the American Idols and all that stuff, but I wasn't super into that. So I was interested in this docudrama aspect of reality television outside of the real world, which of course was wonderful. So I did watch it, and I thought it was highly insulting because I lived in Orange County and I had never seen anybody like that. I had seen gated communities, but not like that, because if you remember, the first season of Orange County Housewives was really obsessed with the fact that it was a gated community. It was
Right.
Even the opening title sequence was a gate closing to sort of play off of this exclusion metaphor, like you're not allowed, you're behind the gates, or you're on the outside.
Which is really odd when you think about a show that's like, we're going to give you access. You would think the gates would be opening, not
Right.
closing, but they're like, get out.
Right, but this is the play,
Boards.
right? Is that you guys get to come inside with
Mm-hmm.
this show type of thing.
Meanwhile, Kodo's really the sticks of Orange County.
I actually live very close to Kodo, and it's on the outskirts. It's,
Yeah.
off the toll roads. It's not, I live maybe 3 miles from Kodo.
It's like 30 minutes to the beach from Coda.
Oh, maybe more. It's not the quintessential, stereotypical, normative
it is literally the edge of Orange County.
It is not Newport,
absolutely.
Irvine adjacent like you see Irvine.
No, it's not like where Kelly Dodd actually lives, like Newport, that type of thing, and actually maybe even Heather.
Lynn also lived in Laguna before her
Yeah,
house
those
got
are much
foreclosed.
more stereotypical. You're so right. It's very much suburbia out in Kodo. They have their own zip code, their own school, their own, it's a very interesting, weird place.
But it's interesting because I feel like they even have a double gate in Kodo.
They do.
But it's kind of bizarre because it's just like, you really have to decide you want to go to Kodo. Like you're only going to Kodo really if you live in Kodo.
You're not just going to run into Kodo. Absolutely true.
Like you really have to work to get to Kodo. And it's not really even a place that, you can, when people drive around and look at the holiday lights or whatever, they're not going to go to Kodo. No. You can't get in anyway.
Correct.
Right. And there's like gorgeous communities in Orange County, like Nellygale, where like people are actually riding their horse down the street by the mansion. But like you're in between kind of Laguna and like San Juan Capistrano. So it's still like a lot more central in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
The moment you know that Casey is into the holidays, they have these
Christmas
things.
lights.
Right.
Yeah.
They have these things in Orange County. I just know about the boats they sent up and down the Back Bay.
Yeah.
But Casey was about to give us, I think she could give us a walking tour of every.
The neighborhoods with good lights. So you can vouch that it's not easy to get to Kodo.
Not at all easy to get to Kodo, very far off the beaten path, and not at all typical Orange County. That's the takeaway.
You hear that, Tamara?
Yeah. Oh, Tamara lives, no, she does live in Kodo now. She used to live in Ladera, which is not gated, but equally weird. It's the whitest, most suburban. I've never seen something weirder than Ladera. I recently went there. My kid has a pediatrician's office that does off hours there. This is TMI, but we had to go one day because it was off hours. And I was freaked out. It's like Pleasantville.
It is.
Very scary, weird.
And it's kind of like when you're driving into it, it feels a little like you're driving into Jurassic Park.
It's
across
so
that bridge.
strange. It is very strange.
And I get lost. I have a friend that lives there. And so trying to visit my friend and then get back to the road, every time I am horribly lost. It all very much looks the same. And like that was something that freaked me out about Orange County anyway when I moved down here, was how similar things look. But Ladera Ranch really does feel
creepy.
It is actually like a master sculpted community. And actually there was this one time that Max and I actually met the guy who designed Ladera Ranch at
I can only imagine what that man's like.
we went to an art event in Orange County, and the guy that designed Ladera Ranch got into a bidding war over a painting with Max's mother.
Classy.
Very classy.
And then the people that ran the art community had to explain to Max's mother, who had been like getting artwork there for decades, that like the guy that runs Ladera Ranch, like his wife is like the new like president or something like that. So like you can't beat him in this bidding war. Like we know you can, but you have to withdraw.
Wow.
So it got like really intense. And then like they passively aggressively fought over Ladera Ranch like the rest of the night. And
I sort of love this.
Your mom
Yeah.
didn't concede, did she?
she gave up the painting. Like she knew she had to give up the painting. She got a different painting. But then
like
they
an
kind
episode.
of had their own housewives back and forth the rest of the night because he paced back and forth in front of the painting to be like, I got the painting.
Like
She
a
backed
hunter.
out. She backed out of the bidding war. And like then she would go back and forth with him being like, well, I'm like letting you get the painting. And then he was like, well, where do you live? And like she's not in Ladera Ranch. She's actually like beachfront Orange County. So then it got like more awkward.
This is so OC this week.
Yeah, it's
No,
very
no,
This
You're-
is so getting kicked out. The mother, don't touch my mother,
Fixing
who
an
has the
art.
dreads, this is so OC this week.
Well, yeah. Do you want to?
No, the thing he said that I'll always remember is he was telling us how he designed Ladera Ranch, and he goes, I really wanted to have like a community feel, so all the houses are much closer together.
for white people.
Because that's what we want, is to be closer together.
Well, he's
Closer
just trying
together.
to maximize profit by
Right.
putting them closer together,
Right.
as
Yeah.
is every new build in Orange County. But
Yeah, this is
you
about
can pretend
community,
that's
though.
a novel concept.
Or that like that's actually what happens in these suburban communities, that like people are really
thinking it through.
Thinking it through, or like even like
Altruistic.
fashion.
But I feel like this guy
together.
also created some design community up by Valencia that I think has probably caught on fire a number of times since the creation, right? And of course, everything is closer together because that's what he likes. Not that great these days.
It's not like land is a premium in the outskirts.
It's just a weird.
No,
This isn't
but so
LA.
that's like this weird thing that we got to meet the Ladera Ranch guy in a really awkward, very Housewives-esque
That's
way.
hilarious.
strange.
And then the art community lost my car in the parking lot, which was the most Orange County thing to ever happen. And when we went to try to pick the car back up, they told us that they couldn't find it because we weren't driving a Mercedes.
Actually, it should make it a lot easier to find it.
That's what I thought. I was like, we're the only car here that's a Chevy. You shouldn't have lost it.
not that hard. Wow.
Okay, so
Coming back.
where are we?
Okay. So we're still like anything else for your Bravo viewing? So Orange County.
So I get into Orange County, and I eventually get into my doctoral program not until 2011. I didn't think that I could do something with it, but it turns out I could. And so I continued to watch, and I watched all of them as they were birthed, so to speak. New Jersey, New York, Beverly Hills. I never watched DC. I don't watch Potomac because I had to draw the line. I don't watch Dallas. I did watch Miami. I thought it was great. I still am sad that they're gone. I really loved some of the women on Miami. And Watch What Happens Live was my big draw too. Really loved that show. Still do. So anyway, all in all, I've probably watched, as of this, I remember in my defense, I told them I had watched over 540 episodes of Real Housewives, and it was something like 350 episodes of Watch What Happens Live for this dissertation. So it's a lot.
So you majored in Bravo.
Sort of. Not really. Television studies.
Can I ask just a disciplinary question?
Yeah.
What was the difference between mass communications and then film and media?
Well, mass communication studies the history of mediums and how they interact with society and how they change them and how society, the interaction between the two and the history of the two. But when you get into media studies, you're allowed to delve into certain texts and to certain phenomenon, I would argue, and so phenomena rather. So it's a totally different thing, although it's closely related. And media studies is notoriously interdisciplinary, so it's an amalgamation of mass comm, sometimes human communication, sometimes sociology, sometimes anthropology, and sometimes history, because we all have to learn the history of media. So it's really sort of the stepchild of mass comm, but you can't do as much as you want in specific texts when you're in mass comm or comm.
So a lot more interdisciplinary.
Yeah, very
sounds
interdisciplinary. Yeah.
Who are your top 3 Bravo celebrities? How'd you select them?
I think I only selected 2. I think I selected Nene and Bethany ahead of this taping because I did think about it. And both of them, I heard that one of your second episode, I do remember that the guest said Nene also, but I have very different reasons. So I don't know how many people have said Nene, but both Nene and Bethany to me represent sort of this idealized goal of the Housewives, because so many people think that it's so derogatory and so it's like a pejorative and bad commentary on women, a bad representation of what women can be. And Andy, I've heard say many times, and Bravo on the Housewives' behalf has said, at its core, the Real Housewives seeks to empower women, seeks to give them both a platform to live their authentic lives, which I absolutely hate the word authentic. We can talk about that later. And also gives them financial independence. So I think both Bethany and Nene have really taken what they have been given at Bravo, which is a pigeonholed dramatic role in a reality series that they don't have a lot of control over in the end. I think they start to feel as though they have to act a certain way to play a certain part. Certainly most of the women seem to act that way anyway. But they've taken that and it's gone much further than Bravo. For Nene, she doesn't have a liquor business like Bethany does, but she's been on Broadway. She's been on mainstream network television. She does have a clothing line.
She had a
She's
comedy
written
tour
books.
too.
She had a comedy tour, which was seemingly very successful. Bethany, of course, was on the cover of Forbes. She has a really intense skinny brand empire that she's cultivated, and for better, for worse, written 6 or 7 books. She's also been on mainstream network television in the form of Shark Tank recently.
She also had her own daytime TV show.
She did have her daytime TV show. I did watch that. I actually really liked it. Short-lived, but still interesting. So in my opinion, both these women have taken their personas that they developed on Bravo and used them to actually have serious independent financial independence from both Bravo and perhaps any sort of personal situation that they were in, which I think is something that we can call a silver lining in the Bravo-verse. I feel pride for both of them. I don't necessarily love Bethany. I think she annoys. We have a love-hate relationship, she and I. She doesn't know it, but yeah, I'm sort of sad she's gone now again from New York, but I also get it. And as for Nene, I love her, but I often disagree with how far she takes her persona. Yeah.
Bethany's actually like the most popular housewife with guests that we've had on
Is
the
she?
show. Yeah.
Yeah. If I had to think of someone who didn't build an empire, I don't even know who I would think of. Although I do love I actually really like Melissa Gorga.
Oh, okay. That's a new one. We don't normally.
I like Melissa. I mean, I've started to like her a lot less the more I watch her interact with Joe. Is that his name?
Joe Gorga.
Yeah, I totally skipped.
Their relationship is insanely archaic.
Insanely archaic, and he's just really, Joe, if you're listening, we need some kind of gender awareness classes. He's talked about
None. He talks so weirdly about his daughter.
And I stopped watching Housewives for a minute. Ranj, as Max calls him. I stopped watching Ranj for a minute because he literally talked about his wife having a scent. He was on screen, on camera, talking to other guys, talking about his wife's scent. Like, those are some things we don't need.
Like vaginal scent?
I assume so.
Oh.
He's like, I can smell her when I come into the room. I said, I'm so grossed out.
That's disgusting.
And I'm all about no judgment, be there, be free. But at some point,
well,
the hyper masculinity
Yeah.
of Joe Gorga is just
he's also fallen into a really intense stereotype that he plays up so hard.
so hard.
Yeah.
So hard.
That scent thing has like an air of Silence of the Lambs to me.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like a little bit of like.
Little psycho. Yeah.
Yeah, it has a little
Like,
predatory kind of.
Well, he totally acts predatory.
He's
demands sex, and she talks about that a lot.
She
It's very
calls him
strange.
Tarzan.
yeah.
that's-
So it's
yeah.
like I have a problem watching their dynamic. But anyway, I do think
It's a good point.
as an entrepreneur, and she's pushed back and said, I know you don't want me to
Yeah,
do this,
yeah.
but I'm going to do this.
Yeah,
So.
that's true.
So this brings us into a different kind of question. If you had to pick a particular Bravo show that you think has been of special importance to the network or even reality TV more broadly, which show would you pick and why?
I pick out of intense bias because I wrote my dissertation on it. I picked the franchise of The Real Housewives. I don't think it's not totally possible for me to pick one. If I had to, I might pick Orange County. I think that The Real Housewives changed pop culture. I think that it changed a lot of reality television, especially in the docudrama subgenre. When I think of just how much of it has entered our popular lexicon, how many times it's been on SNL, how many times people have, the word's not covered, remade the series under a different name, Basketball Wives.
Very popular with this part of the table.
Oh, you love Basketball Wives?
I mean, there's so many parallels. It's like how you do reality TV well, how you do it. I don't know about well, but
I haven't really dived Dove?
Dive.
Dovin.
Haven't doven? I haven't doven. I've not dived into Basketball Wives. I'm interested in it because so many people tell me the same thing. But there's a lot of, I think, that's how television works. It's based in formula, which comes out of radio. And this formula, the formulaic nature of this particular show that was such a success has since very much influenced the rest of reality television. And although people say reality television is dying, it's still very much alive. So many networks are more than half sustained. And up until 2 years ago, Bravo was fully sustained with reality television. I don't think you can argue enough for The Real Housewives being one of the most important shows of our generation. Whatever important means to you.
I mean, just saying the name Housewives, people know exactly what that means.
Yeah,
right?
Most people. I find my students, the younger kids, are not as privy to it, not as interested in it. But, maybe their time will come.
Which is odd. I've noticed that in classes too when I mention
You'll
Housewives.
mention it and they're like, no, we don't watch that.
Yeah, and then I feel a little old. Yeah.
Or people are embarrassed.
Or it's also really interesting to me where if I talk about the Housewives, I have this phenomenon sometimes where it's my male students who are more keyed in than my female students.
I haven't had that. I'm interested in that.
And even in the live show we just did, it was a bunch of young male students in the audience who were up and who knew what we were talking about. And it was not really the younger women in the audience. It was like the young men on campus.
I'm wondering if that stems from viewing habits in their household. Maybe the moms watching it and them joining. I just don't see. I don't know. Maybe that's it's probably sexist of me to think that I can't see 20-somethings coming to these programs on their own. But I do wonder.
I was definitely that 20-something.
You were.
I dragged Casey.
Oh my
into
God.
it.
I mean, I dabbled slightly before Max.
It's like we're talking about mushrooms or something.
Well, because one of
aren't we?
my dearest friends is a Bravo editor guy, so he works for the network.
What department?
He does promos. So
he does all the promos for Below Deck.
Rad.
And Below
Stud
Deck
of the
Men.
Sea.
yes,
Yeah, that was
love
him.
it. Oh my God, amazing.
yes. So all the promo commercials you see for those,
So good.
Is yes, and so
Please extend my compliments.
I will.
Okay.
He's the best. So artistic and creative. And so, but when I was younger, before I met Max, he was working on different housewife shows and Top Chef. So I think Top Chef Seattle was his for all those promos. And so, so I would dabble and watch to be like, oh, I saw your show. It was great. I loved the promos, And with Max and I, like the really only thing that we could agree on to watch was Bravo.
Love it.
So it became like our major deep dive to not then have to fight about what we were doing in our downtime.
Yeah.
And in my
Interesting.
late teens, early 20s, me and my other male roommate would watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
I still watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I fell out of it, and then we've been slowly getting back into it.
I
the
find
last
them
couple weeks.
absolutely fascinating.
I'm very interested in Kanye's current transformation.
Into a cult leader.
That
Wait a minute. Breaking news. I have Bravo News. Breaking
tell
news.
us.
Kanye, as of 2 days ago. Wait a minute. Breaking news. Oh, where's my soundtrack? Did you?
Oh, it's in. It's just on
yeah, I
your
don't have
headset.
Breaking Bravo News. Kanye, as of 2 days ago, says that he received a $68 million tax refund because he is blessed by God.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with Bravo?
Nothing. You said
Oh.
Kardashians.
Oh, breaking. Oh, you said.
Yeah,
okay.
Breaking
okay.
Bravo News.
We're like CNN around here.
Oh,
we
this
just
is-
go into it.
I'm sorry.
You were
Yes.
a little academic there. You went a little literal.
I know.
A little literal.
My
I'm like,
apologies.
huh?
This is wonderful news.
Then I had
68
this
million.
moment. Did we not just talk about Kardashians?
No, you're right. I'm just nuts.
You're just trying to make
I was trying
Max's
to make
editing
sure-
really difficult to
I was trying to
splice
make sure
different
that
Bravo
there
news
was not
together.
some Kanye involvement on Bravo that I did not know about.
Oh God, no.
No.
That would be really.
Oh God,
yeah,
no. That's the
not
last
great.
thing we need.
Yeah.
So, picking up then on this history of Bravo, before I ask you more about critical media literacy, could you give us some of this history of Bravo?
Yeah, I have it. So Bravo as a channel debuts in 1980 as a premium commercial-free channel. It goes ad sponsored.
Really? 1980?
1980.
Wow.
Yes, it's the what we call in TV studies the multi-channel era, which is the invention of cable. The actual wires in the ground.
Max. He feels like his
That
whole
is
life is a lie.
blowing my mind.
He feels
Yes.
like his whole life is a lie.
No, it's not, because it doesn't become the Bravo you know until much later. It's a very arts focused channel. It's, playing ballets and symphonies and things like that.
Whoa.
Becomes ad sponsored in 1998, is purchased by NBC in 2002. Launches 2 gay-friendly shows in 2003 in accordance with its sort of niche branding at the time, which it still carries through to today. Boy Meets Boy and Queer Eye.
Queer Eye was big.
Everyone's very familiar with Queer Eye,
Yeah.
especially now with the Netflix revamp. So that really puts Bravo on the map. Andy Cohen joins Bravo from the network Trio in 2004. Then Lisa Shaw, who's a digital genius, joins Bravo in 2005. That's only relevant to my dissertation, sorry. Programming wise, 2006 is when Housewives starts, as well as Top Chef. They really start branding in 2006 as well with this tagline, "Watch What Happens," which has sort of now petered out a little bit. It's petered, isn't it? Petered. It's petered out, and I don't think it's actually part of their branding anymore. Then they really seriously brand their audience. They launch a campaign called the Affluencers, which is something I'm really interested in, and they brand their audience as the most affluent, educated, brand loyal watchers, consumers that have ever walked the face of the planet. And that really sets the foundation for how Bravo is viewed both in the industry and by advertisers moving forward. Atlanta debuts in 2008 along with New York. Watch What Happens Live debuts in 2009. Another tagline comes about in 2009, the By Bravo tagline, where everything was, drama by Bravo, summer by Bravo, divorce by Bravo, whatever it was, matchmaking by Bravo. All of that is 2009. That's also sort of died out along with the premiere of New Jersey. DC is 2010 with Beverly Hills. That's 2010 is where they get their Bravo Now app. So they're sort of more dipping their toes into the digital empire that they have really, in my mind, mastered in terms of cable networks. Miami debuts in 2011. Bravo Watch What Happens Live goes 5 nights a week in 2012. Andy releases his first book in 2013 and leaves his position at Bravo as an executive. Second book in 2014, Watch What Happens Live. Why can't I say that? I've said it so many times in my life. Adds their live after show and their first scripted program. So they break out of reality in 2014 with Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce. And goes on. The last 2 things I have are Potomac and Dallas, which debuted in 2016. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. I don't know if that was boring for the listeners, but that's in a nutshell the history of Bravo. And they've had a lot of branding stuff that's happened in between with lots of digital initiatives as well. But in a nutshell, that's it.
So part of this work that you did to put the history of Bravo together also comes from your study of critical media literacy. So what is critical media literacy, and how has Bravo been so much a part of your studies?
Actually, I don't know that my work on Bravo, that's a really good question. As I was doing this work on Bravo, I didn't see the media literate perspective that it could actually bring. Critical media literacy asks us to understand the political economy around television, in addition to the text that it produces, in addition to the social impact that it produces, in addition to, who owns what and why certain things get to be said, certain things don't get to be said, why certain ideologies are present, why others are left out completely or demeaned. So media literacy is really just about understanding the things that are made. From a reality television perspective, that would include something I didn't do in my dissertation because I didn't have access, but it would certainly include production. Production is a huge part of media literacy in terms of reality television because it's presented to us as real and actually insanely overproduced and very much edited to present a specific narrative. I don't think out of evil, out of necessity most of the time, and for ratings, but that's how television works. And most people don't understand that, and they start to say reality television is fake, it's all scripted, it's all this, it's all that, when it's much more of a nuanced accusation than that. It can't be simplified down to reality television is fake. And part of being media literate is understanding that Bravo is owned by a parent company that's a massive conglomerate and has a lot of power and has a lot of money and has the ability to do the things and have this niche, gay-friendly, reality television-driven network. It is part of a bigger package. So in my dissertation, I speak to the audience part of it. I speak to the textual analysis of some of the shows, as well as the history of Bravo and the branding of Bravo, in the hopes that when we look at shows like this from a media studies perspective or from our students' perspective, that we don't just take isolated things from the show and make sweeping generalizations about it, that we understand how these media texts are made, because there is no such thing as an innocent text. Is one that I'm being a really bad media scholar right now because I don't remember who said that. But there is no such thing as an innocent text. So no matter how silly something is, how guilty people feel watching it, which really bothers me. That's another media studies pet peeve. But however many people refer to it as guilty pleasure, it doesn't matter because it's still influencing our society, our culture, our legacy. And the fact remains that millions of people watch these shows every night and are invited to judge these women's lives. And it's impossible that doesn't carry over into our cultural ideologies.
Quick question. How do you feel then about the phrase unscripted television, I think they call it, instead of reality TV?
It simply typically refers to the fact that the people who do write, if they do, are non-unionized.
Oh.
That makes much more sense because I know the
Interesting.
Kardashians have a script.
They do have, Kris Jenner is the master puppeteer. She doesn't let anything go by the fly. So everything is planned. I don't know that they have a script, but everything's planned and she has a heavy approval in that process. But for the Housewives, do I believe it's scripted? I will go to my grave. No, I do not believe it's scripted at all. Do I believe it's overproduced? Yes, I do. Do people know the difference? No, not typically. So overproduced for me is something I learned in school, but Vicky confirmed for me in an interview I did with her years ago. It's this similar thing to, we're all at a party and production is there and they're filming us, and Jessica and I have sort of a beef, but we're not talking. Production, after we've had 6 glasses of champagne, comes up to Jessica and says, Jessica, you know that Martina called you an asshole like 2 days ago in an interview. And Jessica says, what? And they say, yeah, she did. She did it. And I think I just heard her do it again. 6 glasses of champagne deep. Jessica comes over to me, or maybe she doesn't. But then production comes over to me. Production comes over and says, you know, Martina, we just told Jessica that you called her an asshole. And she said, I don't care that. She's a bitch. And I say, what? And then all of a sudden, I'm going over to Jessica, if not Jessica's already coming over to me. And, you know, with our liquid courage and the fact that we need to maintain our reputation on television, we start defending ourselves. Is that scripted? No. Is it calculated and scaffolded to produce an emotional scene? Absolutely. Are the emotions that we feel in that moment real? Yes. But are they helped along? Yes.
It's like showing up to an already set table.
Correct.
And then enjoying
and adding
the meal.
Lots of liquor.
Yes.
And drivers.
By the way, when I'm angry, I've been told that I look like a little chihuahua because I'm short, but I'm fearless.
Oh, I like it.
So just so you know, any tall person
Yeah.
who calls me an asshole or a bitch. They will get this little chihuahua nipping at their heels.
I would never. Simply an example.
I have said that H on H needs our own reality show with this type of like dynamic.
That could be really good.
Yeah.
That could, I mean, listen, I am a window into a married life. I have a window on a working marriage relationship.
Yeah.
I thought, just as, you know, someone who was their examiner on a committee or read chapters, I thought I had it. Doing a
Figured
seminar
this out.
with both of them separately, and then I could put their personalities together. But doing this podcast,
Has
I
opened your
have
eyes.
learned they need their own show.
Oh.
I usually say I need my own show. They need their own show. It is hilarious.
I'd be willing to produce it.
Yeah. And we
Be
don't
willing
need
to
liquid
liquor
courage.
you up and tell you that so and so said something about you.
They don't
said
even
what?
do that. We were late starting a meeting by almost an hour because you can edit this out.
See, that's fine.
Because, you know, Max is very professional. So he sends a text. We just are dealing with something. Oh, okay. It could be anything. But then they got back on the phone and we started talking. And I said, well, I think we should do X, Y, and Z. See, I told you, Casey. I told you I was right.
Wow.
So I have a,
It's
but
adorable.
it's all the fights are Bravo related.
Oh.
Yeah. They're
Please
not
no.
like legit.
Please no. So
love
anyway,
it.
let's go back to the show. Back to the real show. So you had the opportunity to actually interview Vicky, as you just said, and Peter Madrigal, or is it Madrigal?
Man.
I think it's magical.
Seems
Madrigal.
Like it's magical.
So you had the opportunity to interview both of them for your dissertation. What was that like? What kind of conclusions did you draw from these interviews, either academically, personally, or reality TV
Yeah.
Bravo deed?
Yeah. Vicky happened much earlier in the process, 2011 maybe. I think it was my first year, the December of 2011. I was home on break, and she had me meet her at Kodo Insurance. The way that I came to meet her is
I'm in love with this story.
I can't tell you how. It's the most insane story. I guess we can cut it out. I'll just tell it very quickly.
Yeah, whatever you don't want in the show, we can always cut out.
I don't care if people know this. Tamara and Vicky had a now defunct business, Wines by Wives.
Yes.
Okay. So of course, I decide I'm going to write my dissertation on it. I'm joining this club 100%. So I join it. I get all the notifications. One day they have a thing that says, come enter a contest to meet us. And I'm just like, duh. So of course I enter the contest. I never win anything ever. I get an email, you've won.
Oh my gosh.
You get a trip to California. I live in California. So, I mean, I was in Illinois at the time, but I was going to be home because it was going to be over Christmas break. Or maybe it was spring break. I don't remember at the moment. But anyway, they had this LA launch party of Wines by Wives, and I was invited as a VIP with a meet and greet as the part of winning this contest. So I went with a girlfriend of mine who's Bravo obsessed as well, a friend of mine. And so we went and I met them. They were crazy. There really wasn't that many of us, maybe 20 guests, people who won this contest. And when I met Vicky, I said, I'm a PhD student and I'm writing my dissertation on you and the Housewives. I flattered her. I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could tell by
Yeah.
that. How-
And she said, what's that? And I said, oh,
She knew what a dissertation was?
no, she didn't know
Okay,
what
I
a
assumed.
dissertation was. No, I don't think many people do. Not for nothing, but I said, yeah, I'm writing it and I would really love to interview you. I'm so impressed with you being one of the few people who works on the show. Cause she loves that, right?
Yeah.
So
you knew exactly what
I knew
to say.
exactly
I'm
what to
so
say.
impressed.
Thank you. And she agreed to it. And she gave me her email address and she said to email her assistant at Kodo Insurance and to set it up. And I said, I will. And she's like, no, yeah, please do. So I did. And she followed through with it. And she gave me, I think only a half an hour she gave me. But I went to Kodo Insurance. Michael was there.
Wow.
That older woman who helps her, who's sometimes in the show, Linda, was there as well. Michael was a horrible individual, super rude to me and to her in front of me, just as he's portrayed on the show. He's
to
not
Linda
into it.
or to his mom?
To his mom.
Wow.
So she sits me down in the conference room and she basically is like, you have 30 minutes, go. I'm like, okay. They were filming at the time and Cut Fitness had just opened up right next door. So Tamara had just opened that business, and she and Tamara were in a fight. And she said, I'm not talking to her right now, and this and that. And I asked her, I think the question that elicited this response was, lots of people accuse the show of not being real. How do you respond to that? Is this show real? And she said, well, if you mean scripted, it's not scripted. Is it real? Like, we're friends? No, we're not friends. We work together. And I said, okay, so you're not friends at all when you're not filming? She's like, no, we're not friends. This is not my friend. It's my colleague. You know how she gets like very spazzy and like it is, and she's like, yeah, it's not my friend. It's my colleague. Don't you have a colleague? It's like a colleague. You see him at work and you don't see him when you're not at work. I'm like, okay, relax. I didn't say that. I was just thinking that. Internal dialogue. And, she just basically reiterated to me that the production people are real shit stirrers. And although they love them very much, they're the people who tie everything together. So in other words, each of the women have production people they work with and share their day-to-day lives with. Like, hey, production person, I'm doing this today, and my daughter's doing this today, and my husband and I fought about this yesterday. And then Vicky has her own, Tamara and Vicky have their own, each have their own. I'm telling this wrong. So someone has them, and then they each have their own production people that they share their lives with. And so those production people are the people who are responsible for making 6 separate lives, or however many, cohesive. And the only way they can do that is to share details of some women's lives with other women. So, for example, to bring it to current day, I have no doubt that the production people for Emily are telling all the other women that she and Shane are having terrible problems. All these things. So this is how it's connected, because they're not friends. So they don't call each other and say, I had a fight with Shane. I had a fight with whomever. They're not doing that. So that's, in that way, it's instigated, and your private details are told to people that you work with, and it gets, it festers from there. So that was the most interesting thing that Vicky told me. She was very matter of fact of like, yeah, we're not friends. And I was like, okay. Peter, the most interesting thing he told me, that was a couple of years later. I landed that interview by going to Sir and literally flattering the crap out of him because he was our waiter. And I just said, I think, I love your position on the show. You're like kind of the voice of reason. Because in the beginning, he was on the show much more.
Yeah.
And I said, I'd really love to talk to you. And he was sort of like, where do you live? And I said, Orange County. He's like, well, I'm not going to Orange County. I said, I'll come here. It's fine. So we met at the Grove one day. And we talked for a while. He loved to hear himself talk. He really loved it. And the most interesting thing he told me was that at that time, he told me 2 things. The first thing was that the people, they don't really work there, which I think we all knew, that they originally did work there. But now, in order to stay truthful, they all give their shifts up. They work there, but they don't actually go unless they're filming. So they give all their shifts off when they're up, when they're not filming. And I'm sure it's different now. I'm sure they legit don't work there. But this was years ago. This was probably only 2 or 3 seasons in. And he told me that they got, I said, because it's hard to believe as a viewer that you guys have these very average LA apartments and very average LA jobs and really nice, you dress really nicely and you go out and you do lots of stuff. And he confirmed, as I suspected, and most people do, that all of production pays for everything that they do, as is the same with the Housewives. But he even went a step further, and it blew my mind, even though it shouldn't have, that they get wardrobe budgets on Vanderpump. And I don't know that they still do. They might, but they're so much more famous now. Maybe they do. But that just blew my mind. And it made so much sense.
That changes how I see Tom Sandoval. Right?
Wait,
he always has new clothes.
The wardrobe budget blows everyone's mind?
I know it shouldn't. A little bit. I know it shouldn't.
It shouldn't, but for
of
some reason.
Of course it does. I mean, of course they do precisely for what you said. Yeah. I've lived in Atlanta. I've lived in LA. I live in Orange County. I've lived in DC. I know how much you have to make to dress the way they do or to drive the way they do. So I'm just surprised that as a media scholar that surprised you.
Totally.
What surprises me about that is I was always under the impression that, because when you watch the evolution of the Housewives, like when Tamara first came on, she looked like a relatively average person, right? And now I get the impression that like she puts her paycheck back into the way that she looks, her house, etc. And so to hear that is actually like separated from her paycheck surprises
No idea
me.
about the Housewives. Maybe it's just negotiated. But you also have to remember that the Vanderpump kids were not getting housewives salaries, right? They were desperate to be on television, and they were doing it for nominal amounts of money in the beginning. And even now, I would argue that their salaries are probably nowhere near the housewives. So I'm sure that the housewives, that's part of it. But also the housewives are able to, and so are the Vanderpump kids, to get free things done because they filmed them. Botox and procedures and dermatological beautification, all that stuff is free because they have a
Product placement on
I
their
wonder
body.
how much Sonia has saved on vaginal rejuvenation.
You
a
know
lot.
what?
Wait, someone else just did vaginal rejuvenation. Who was it?
Shannon.
And Kelly.
I will say that I went to SUR for one of my birthday dinners a couple years ago, and Peter was the manager that night.
He works there for real.
He does. He totally does. And I think he even had to bring me my food because I had like a food allergy, so I had to make sure that like my plate was clean, so he had to like do the special delivery. But it was still while the cast would still sometimes work there because they hadn't gotten super famous yet. It was still only like maybe 2-3 seasons in. And so I actually got there, and Tom Sandoval started his bartending shift, and I got the first drink of the night. And I was like sitting at the bar with Tom Sandoval because it was still like early, so it wasn't like crowded yet. So it was just me and Tom at the bar, and
That's pretty cool.
and he was like, "Oh, do you want to take pictures with me?"
Yes.
He was like, "We can do selfies."
Wow. Really
amazing.
offering it up there.
Yeah, no shame. Someone else who I'm sure if you had run into him, he would have like given you an interview in like a heartbeat.
I'm sure.
He probably still would.
He probably still would.
Yeah. If you're listening to this, Tom.
Tom Sandoval, come find me. Cal State Fullerton.
In thinking about Bravo and branding, what roles does Andy Cohen play in shaping the network?
Oh boy. I do, to harken back to Casey's analogy of Andy being the Santa Claus of Bravo. I think it's really true. I laughed when you said it because it's one of those things like, yeah, that's true. Andy is, I think, Bravo, and he is the brand of Bravo in so many ways. The brand is built on lifestyle tenets that he embodies: being affluent, being urban, and being educated, being rich, being gay. Now being a single father is sort of taking away from that, but he still embodies the brand. And the interesting thing about him, I think, is his role as the late night talk show host, because his role as that host is so differentiated from every other one of his peers, not only because he's openly gay, but because his sexuality allows him to ask questions that other hosts would never get away with. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, James Corden, they could never ask a woman about their Botox, about their boob job, about whether they have ever swam in the lady pond. They could never ask those questions. It would be completely unacceptable. And I don't think it's necessarily right that it's acceptable that Andy does it, but that is part of their branding. They ask salacious questions. They get salacious stories. Watch What Happens Live in and of itself is a place where people admit to things they would never admit to on other talk shows because it's so untraditional in its nature, fueled with liquor. And to me, that is part of the Bravo brand. This idea that Bravo celebrities and celebrities are accessible, that they're real, that they exist for our consumption is furthered every time Andy sits down with a guest and every time he puts on a show. That part of the brand is just, driven home. And Watch What Happens Live embodies all the digital initiatives that they're so obsessed with and is a really actually technically advanced show. There are no other shows except for Walking Dead that copied Watch What Happens Live that do that. The live answering of questions by guests. That's not a thing that happens outside of radio. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers it fully, but I do think he is the life's blood of Bravo. They're going to be really screwed when he leaves.
So I think that you very masterfully managed to answer 2 questions in one. So now we're going to do our Bunko Party game break.
Oh, sweet.
Woo! Okay. So today's game I am calling Jingle Bells. Okay, I'm going to give you 5 different scenarios, and it's cool because I'm going to give you a piece of paper so you can order your 5 in the order that's most important to you. So you're going to do like your least to your most. Okay. So here's how this is going to go. I'm going to throw out iconic Housewives / Bravo holiday party events.
Oh.
And you're going to order these from your least to most favorite Bravo holiday moments.
Okay.
Then you 3 will lobby each other to see if you can make your lists align in the same order. For each position that you align, I will play some Jingle Bells.
Oh.
Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Any questions?
Oh no! So this is how you got over the group. I have a gluten brain. I'm gonna just quit talking for this episode.
So in no particular order, here are your 5. Andy Cohen and Anderson Cooper, New Year's Eve 2018. A Very Jersey Christmas from season 3. There was lots of drama because Kathy invites Joe and Melissa to her house for Christmas Eve. And Teresa's really upset. And she's like, no, Joe, you should stay. This is family. What a bad cousin. Because if she was a good cousin, she wouldn't be taking you to her family. Like I would never take one of her siblings and be like, come to my house for Christmas Eve. What about our parents? And like,
I remember
her dad is like really grumpy that like Joe might be leaving. And of course the Manzos are having like this massive Christmas Eve party with all these tables set out, and like the line that like cracks me up, Caroline's walking through the house and she goes, is there enough cheese and sauce on every table? Because they're making like spaghetti dinner for Christmas Eve. And she is like so done with like the cooking and like the deck that she is like there in sweats. It's this gorgeous party and she is like really just comfortable. Vicky's Winter Wonderland party from season 8. It's episode 17 and 18. It's the iconic last party with Gretchen. It's Gretchen's farewell to the Housewives. It's where Lydia's mother gets in trouble with Ryan for her feet up on the couch.
Oh yeah,
That was a really good episode.
I barely remember it, but I remember the feet thing.
Yeah. Holiday in the Berkshires at Dorinda's home, which was the Berkshires episode from season 9 of Real Housewives of New York. Where
is this the same Nutcracker season? Is this the season with the Nutcracker?
That's actually the season after the first iteration. Bethany, I mean, it's both years in a row. Bethany and Luann are going at it.
Mention It All.
Yes,
that one.
Mention It All, I believe, is Nutcracker season.
Oh, okay. Then Bethany and
this is the one where they came in with the same haircut. So actually, you know what? I'm just going to call Dorinda's Berkshires. Either way, because to me they bleed in. They could have been the same holiday. So we can call this just Holiday in the Berkshires with Dorinda.
What is she? She yells something very specific about. She slut shames her in a very specific
She does
way.
in this particular season, and it's because like Bethany has come in and Luann is like, oh, so you're stealing my hairstyle now. So it's that
I
season, and the one
now.
after is when Bethany tries to convince her don't marry Tom this year. And then the Nutcracker happens in an episode after. So this is season 9, but it's very similar to what happens in season 10 too. And then finally, we have the Southern Charm episode called Ho 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 from season 5. It's the end of the season. This is Patricia's winter ball, and it's the first time that Catherine gets to come back into the good graces of Patricia. She comes as Shep's date, and what makes this party so iconic is that Thomas Ravenel, who is Catherine's
baby daddy,
he has this super crazy girlfriend at the time named Ashley, who's actually from Santa Barbara. And so she went from Santa Barbara to Charleston to try to be Thomas's one and only. And she loses it at this party. And the episode essentially ends at this winter ball with her screaming at Catherine that she's nothing more than an egg donor. And like, she's essentially alleging that like Catherine will never see her children again. And like, It's like super crazy.
Oh, so this isn't last year's, it's the year before.
Yes.
When
Season 5.
Okay.
It's the last episode of the season.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can order those 5 episodes from your, again, from your least iconic to your most, like, I need this in my life, or like,
So
I need it to be there.
1 is the lowest, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to pull up.
1 is the lowest.
Quick question though.
Wait.
Well, I'm really going to have you go from lowest to highest. So you can do it normal 1 to 5, however you want to order it, as long as you know what your most iconic is and your least iconic. Okay. Everybody ordered?
Yeah.
Yes.
Martina, what was your least iconic?
Southern Charm, but only because I don't watch it. So, but it sounds like a very epic showdown.
It was really intensive.
It's a very good show.
Okay.
In terms of entertainment value.
Where did you guys rank that Southern Charm episode for
Best
holiday?
Winter Ball. That's what.
Yeah.
That's my least.
Oh, what about you, Max?
Oh, I put it at 3.
Oh,
I felt like that the winter balls generally serve a similar purpose as the Berkshires of like getting everybody in one place to like here's all the tea. Like that's sort of how they operate. I don't think that they're particularly iconic compared to some of these in terms of holiday magic that we see with like the Berkshires. Yeah, I'm okay with that as 1. But for number...
you mean as your least favorite?
Yeah, it's my least favorite. I'm okay if we put that there.
I just want to jingle the bells, so...
Well, I need to...
Let her have her moment.
Okay.
But no, you can lobby.
Well,
or they can lobby.
I would like to lobby Andy and Anderson's New Year's Eve because I can't...
As your least...
Because I can't think off the top...
Jessica is
my number
not
4.
having this.
What for you is iconic about that?
Are we talking about the one where both Anderson and Andy got drunk?
Yes,
Or was it
this
one,
last year.
Which was the one where Anderson got his ear pierced? Was that when he did it with Kathy?
I don't remember.
I don't think that's with Andy Cohen.
No. Oh, that was CNN?
That's both on.
No, yeah,
on
no,
CNN,
they're
so-
both. But Kathy Griffin got
Griffin
kicked off
was
the show because she did that
Trump
headless
thing.
Trump.
I get that, but there was one. I'm thinking New Year's. Am I thinking New Year's?
Yes, this is New Year's with Anderson.
Where
and-
Anderson.
But I don't know
got
if
his
he
ears
pierced his ear with Andy Cohen
It might
or
have
not.
been when he was drunk with Don Lemon. My bad. I just think anything with Anderson Cooper is going to be my most iconic. I don't care.
Okay, I mean, I'm not going to fight that.
But I will say, if we had to fight for the most iconic,
This is the least iconic.
least iconic.
Oh,
This
no,
is
that
the
one's
least
my
iconic.
best.
Okay. All right. I don't
Take
want to
me
get
off the island.
Yeah, I don't want to get on Jessica's.
I'm not going to get to jingle any bells in this game. I can already tell.
Well,
We haven't been allowed to go through our list.
Max and I agree. So
Yeah.
maybe what's your number? Are we doing number 4 now, or just to number 1?
Okay, so what is your number? Yeah, what's your number 4? So you're...
second to least favorite.
Yes.
Mine's Andy and Anderson. Sorry, Jessica.
I mean, I can't even remember what episode it was. So,
Mine is doing this back. The Ranj Xmas because I can't quite remember it in my mind. What you said to me sounds fabulous. I just haven't seen that episode.
I
and-
remember it. It actually is my least favorite episode. I mean, it's my number 4 because I think though it's not holiday, the most iconic is when Melissa Gorga they were at the cabin and Melissa Gorga was on her knees saying, "We're begging you for our family."
And then the boys get into a brawl.
Right.
And then the boys get into a brawl.
Right. So
Yeah.
I'll give it a number 4 because it's not like my most iconic family interaction on Ranj. Can we agree on 4 or are you going to
Yeah.
keep Anderson at 4?
I'm fine with us going to Ranj.
Okay.
So everybody's Ranj for 4?
Yeah, we might have to compromise with AC and.
Can you hear my jingle bells? Wonderful. Okay.
I feel like Casey did the entire podcast idea just for that moment.
Probably.
And the smile on her face tells me so.
Actually, this game was inspired by my fandom of Michael Rappaport on Bravo.
Oh, well.
I don't know, because Michael
no more.
Rappaport is really into making lists and like fighting with himself about where to position things in a list. And so this game was inspired by Michael Rappaport's various Housewives lists.
I see.
And please know that I'm the only one that when they said you're Bravo Leverty, I said Michael Rappaport. That doesn't count.
That's a good one.
That doesn't count.
I think it's definitely helped his career.
Definitely.
Okay, so what'd you guys make number 3?
Mine was Ranj, but now it's not.
So does your 4 become your 3?
Yeah.
To the listeners, I don't know what to tell you. Just, have your spreadsheets out.
Mine is Southern Charms Winter Ball.
Mine is
So-
Berkshire's because
Get out. No, you can
this
get
is
out.
number 3, right?
I'm sorry, you're going to have to leave.
Yeah, this
So
is
can
the
I
halfway
switch
point.
Berkshire's? Well, if I switch, then I'll have to agree with you that Anderson and Andy can go to 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Berkshire's when
push
I
for that.
remembered the slut shaming. Oh yes, I remember it now. It could almost go to my 5. So let's just continue in this conversation.
Berkshire's, though, if I say Berkshire's to you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. With like Andy and Anderson, like
I had no idea. So
it
they can
takes
go
a
to
second.
They can go to 5.
All
okay.
right.
Go ahead, hit it, Casey.
Oh, so we're Andy and
They can
Anderson
go
are
to
at the
5.
bottom
Only
now?
because I can't remember where Anderson got his ears pierced or when.
Yay.
Okay, so we're in agreement on 4 and 5. Okay, so what is in 3 now? Did we figure
Thought
out?
it was
Why don't we put Ranj at number 3, and why don't we put Southern Charm at number 4? Because
Oh, I could do that. I could very well do
Yep.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So that would mean that the
So number 2.
is Vicky's Winter Wonderland.
Yep, that's what I have.
Oh, wonderful.
Me
That was a
too.
great
I had it for 2 as well. I'm not even
me
lying.
too.
that was a great party. And you know what? I don't really think it happened during the holiday season because they don't I mean, it was a party to commemorate coming home from Vancouver and Whistler in Canada. But I took this as holiday and a non-holiday time. I mean, it's Winter Wonderland. It's,
When
I counted it.
Wait,
When-
Whistler.
What?
Whistler.
yeah, they
Where
go
they have
to.
this case
not
where-
have multiple partners.
Oh, yes.
At the same time. You are a piece of trash!
So good.
So
Never
yes,
gets old.
Winter Wonderland party was to commemorate that Whistler trip.
The other part of that, wasn't that the episode when Terry Dubrow says to David Bador, we have a term for you in medicine.
No.
It's called penis.
No.
That wasn't that episode?
No,
That's-
No,
you're
but
thinking
that
of a
one
different
should be at the top
season.
of our
But it
list
was a
regardless.
party at Vicky's house that he said that.
That was a different end of year season.
Oh.
Yeah.
They might have just been wearing heavy coats then, too.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this was the one where Jim Bellino actually shows up and they're
No.
confronting Slade the whole time. And
yeah.
Shannon's not on yet. So you're thinking of the
Like the following year or
following
something.
year. Yeah.
Wow. Still works for me.
Okay, so what's number 1?
Berkshire's.
Berkshire's.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
moved that to Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, we're all happy with
So
this.
what's our
Yes.
official list again?
Number 5.
a jingle bell.
Yeah, take it easy.
Okay, and so we're going to start from our least iconic to our most iconic. So do you want to take it away with the list, Martina?
Sure. Number 5 was Andy Cohen and Anderson Cooper, New Year's Eve, 2018. Number 4, Southern Charm, Patricia's Winter Ball. Number 3, Very Jersey Christmas, Real Housewives of New Jersey, Family versus Family, P.S. I Miss Kathy. Number 2, Vicky's Winter Wonderland, Gretchen's Farewell. And number 1, Holiday in the Berkshires, which could be interchangeably season 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And that would make Dorinda so happy yet so upset, right? To have this hers being the most iconic because she believes in being a good hostess.
She tries to make it nice.
She tries to make it nice. All she does is try to make it nice.
She just tries.
Oh, I think she knows that like it's the most iconic holiday parties. Because remember this last season, she tried to host Halloween instead, and it was still just nightmarish, but made for the best television.
Her
So
Really,
decor
you can't
is
take
really-
the Housewives anywhere. You can't take the
I
Housewives
think
anywhere.
Dorinda would like my Christmas sweater.
Without a doubt. In
I
fact,
think
I
she
think
would.
you should tweet a picture of it at some point.
It sounds like a good idea.
Okay, so that concludes Bonko Party today.
Nice.
Woo, everybody wins. So, Martina, what are your favorite Andy Cohen moments? If you have any.
One that comes to mind is when he asked Shaq the size of his penis at that live show in LA.
Oh, yeah.
Shaq, you wear a size 15 shoe. Dun, dun, dun. How big is your penis? I was like, what is happening? Oh, my God. That was amazing. I loved that so much. Everything, all his performances at the reunion are so good. And also, to be honest, it was so iconic the way he acted during the Teresa and Joe interview this past Sunday.
Yes.
Oh my God, he was so shady. His facial expressions were everyone's facial expressions. I loved it so much. That is, he's the surrogate viewer. And that's really what another part of his branding, like he acts the way we would if we were interviewing them.
He was so sassy when Joe tried to be like, I'm not wearing orange. Like, no, you're totally wearing orange.
How about when Joe's like, Real Housewives of New Jersey is the best thing to happen to you, Andy? He's like, not really. The birth of my son, number one, and then maybe a lot of other things, and then New Jersey, maybe.
And there were series before you, Joe.
Yeah, he didn't believe that there
He
were.
didn't believe him. I actually think that interview is going to go down in reality TV history.
It was so good.
Could you imagine the cage match between Vicky Gunvalson and Joe Giudice about who is more important to Bravo Network?
Oh my goodness.
Actually, no.
No, I
can't.
couldn't.
No.
It is not going to be polite society, if you will.
Are those the two people with like that we can definitively say they have like the biggest egos?
Ramona Singer.
Oh, Ramona would
Bigger
be
than
Ramona
Luann?
over Joe for
Bigger
sure.
than Luann?
Oh, bigger than.
I think
Luann's-
Ramona has a bigger head for her place in Bravo because she never took a season off. Like, right, the Countess actually took seasons as friend of the show. So Ramona is the only continuous full-time, like, end-all be-all for Roni.
Luann's been humbled. Yeah, right.
But has she?
I don't know, but I think in Ramona's mind, it makes a big difference.
Okay.
Okay. That should have been another list that we made. Who has the biggest ego?
That's the next game, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any other kind of Andy moments?
All his reunion stuff. It just drives me crazy in a good way. He's so good at that.
When Teresa was pushing on him during that fight, that's iconic. Too.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Raj is the most important for Andy.
I don't know. If I just can't think of too many. They all blur together. I've seen
Because he's always kind of shady and messy.
so shady and messy, and I love that he owns it too. There's a lot of things I don't love about Andy, but that's one thing that I love about him.
So related to that, Andy says that he feels no guilt whatsoever in terms of what might happen to people as a result of coming on to the Bravo shows, be it divorce or prison time, like in the case of Teresa and Joe, because people come in voluntarily to film. So what do you make of this? Does Andy have any kind of culpability, or should he?
It's a really difficult question to answer for me because reality television, from a media studies perspective, is really exploitative because it plays on the desperation of people to be famous, one, and number two, the editing is so, the production and the editing can be really misleading. So and typically reality show contracts are some of the most, I don't even know the word. Exploitative in that they're so possessive. I mean, for silly things like American Idol, you sign your likeness away for something like 8 or 9 years.
Wow.
No matter how far you go.
Wow.
Yeah, that's standard for most of these singing shows. You know, Shark Tank, you sign away part of your business whether you get a deal or not. Like, they're exploitative anyway.
I'm learning so much from Martina Baldwin
Oh
today.
my gosh. Well, that's just like, yeah.
When Kelly Clarkson and that other, the runner-up in American Idol
Justin Guarini.
had that. When they had a movie together, was that put out then by American Idol?
Yeah, it must have been because they own their likeness for so long. And Kelly Clarkson being on The Voice now made me think to myself, wow, I bet her contract with them just expired. I'm sure that's not true, but I thought to myself, I'm sure Fox and American Idol were not happy about her going to The Voice. But anyway.
Oh, 'cause it's not Fox.
Because it's not Fox and it's not, I don't even know who does.
NBC?
NBC is The Voice. Yeah, and they're very separate. Yeah. Yeah. So, do I think Andy should have culpability? I don't think it's. Andy can have culpability for the way he acts on his show and the way he talks, but Andy's an EP. He condones the behavior, but he doesn't produce it. He doesn't go to the editing bay. He looks at the episodes before. He approves them for sure. But I think the shadiest stuff is done in the editing room and on the ground with the production team.
And when we say EP, you mean executive producer?
Sorry, he's the executive producer for all the Housewives. Yeah. And it's a really hard question because, like, from a production standpoint, he's right. It's not his problem. From an ethical standpoint, do I wish he cared more about the way these people's lives are torn apart in some ways? Sure. But I understand why he doesn't. He can't. He can't. He couldn't control that. And they're so desperate to be on the show. Bronwyn much. I wish we had a chance to talk about her.
We will in a second.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What do you make of him during reunions saying that the reunions are his least favorite thing to do for Bravo because he has to be the moderator for these fights? Do you think that comes from a genuine place, or
he says that?
Yeah, he has said that recently, multiple times actually.
He's probably over it because I'm pretty sure that used to be his favorite thing to do.
But now that these people feel like they have some sort of status, I'm
Yeah.
sure it's a little bit harder too.
I don't know. I don't know what I make of that. I thought he lives for reunions, but I don't know.
So can you maybe expand on this relationship between Andy Cohen, who becomes affluencers, Bravo celebrities, and the expansive digital and fan initiatives that Bravo has? Is this what makes them a successful leading network?
Yeah.
This combination.
That's what I think. I do think that it's all those things combined. And although the affluencers and the audience aren't branded as they once were, they were branded in a very specific time for a very specific purpose. And it has, it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Did they brand the audience first, or did the audience, meet this self-fulfilling prophecy of being educated and affluent, or at least thinking they were, in addition to appreciating Bravo? But I also think that Bravo has two very distinct types of fans: people that watch it and really think it's cool and take it seriously, and people who watch it because they hate it, basically. And same with Kardashians and anything on TLC and all that stuff. But yeah, I do think that is what makes them a really competitive brand in the digital era, because with all these things, people going a la carte and cutting the cord, they are really digitally relevant. They have a really good presence online. Their app kind of sucks, to be honest, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're one of the early a la carte options, like leaving all their cable packages and going to that because they know that it's the way of the future. They're just really smart like that.
Bravo is literally the only reason why we keep cable at this moment.
Totally. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if I answered the question.
No, I think you did. That it's this combo that makes them pretty cutting edge.
Yeah, I do think that. And the television landscape changes so quickly and is at such a turn of, it's changing so much right now, particularly, that it's amazing that a little niche cable channel that's based in reality television is so popular. It's really quite an accomplishment.
What do you make of Bravo's ability to almost live off the promotion of itself, right? Like, you have these Bravo celebrities who come out with their own pop albums, but it's really only to like sell themselves as housewives, or like Sheena Shea. What do you make that as?
What do I make of them branding themselves?
How Bravo has been able to essentially like leverage that into keeping
its own industry.
Yeah. That it's like everything is so in-house that it's like promoting itself over and over again.
Yeah. So the interesting thing, there's a really smart woman who writes much better about this than I can talk about it. Her name's Allison Hearn, and she talks about self-branding in the age of reality television specifically, and how She calls it, I think, the age of the branded self. And essentially the idea that all these reality stars are in the business of promoting a brand that is themselves. However, I would argue that these women are all recruited to Bravo because they fit the Bravo brand, right? And so not even the brand of the company, but the brand of the audience that they want the audience to think that they are. And so these women, unbeknownst to them, do the work of Bravo branding through the branding of themselves, because all the things that they want to be known for are the same things that Bravo wants to attach itself to. Being wealthy, being entrepreneurs, having nice things, doing plastic surgery, all these things that are part and parcel of the Bravo brand that each of these women live every single day, and then the cameras follow them living these things every day, and so it's just super cyclical and just feeds back into itself over and over again.
Yeah.
So our Bravo news update. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so I have a couple of stories today for Bravo News. Okay.
How exciting.
As requested, Bronwyn. It turns out that she actually almost divorced her own husband years ago, that she ended up, I believe, cheating on him. He was a workaholic, so he wasn't home enough, and they already had a bunch of kids at that point. And so she actually kind of pulled up stakes and ended up in Hawaii with the kids.
Is this alleged or is this confirmed?
This is confirmed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is confirmed.
When did you find this?
Oh, it's been like in the media.
I'm sorry, I missed her. What happened?
So, okay, for our listeners, I might have said this before, but I can't sleep at night because I'm pregnant. So I just read reality TV Bravo News.
Wow.
So Bronwyn had an affair on her husband. They separated. They actually separated. So he stayed stateside. She ended up in Hawaii with the kids that they had at the time. And she apparently had this like Hawaiian like surfer dude boyfriend, and they'd like surf and talk or whatever. And
Or whatever.
Surf and talk.
well, she says that like
Deep.
it was
What a
much more
deep.
of like more of a like companionship. I don't know. She she made it try to sound deep. So I'm just being true to the article. So it turned out that in order to reconcile the family, her husband had to quit his job as an executive.
Okay.
And so that's when he kind of became a stay-at-home dad. They reunited. But that's kind of he ended up having to go through a whole kind of career transformation to spend way more time at home with the kids in Bronwyn.
Didn't they promote him as a CEO though when she was first coming on the show?
Yeah, but the CEO time almost wrecked their marriage.
So
Don't they have 29 and a million children?
Yes.
Yes.
So he needs his job.
Yes. So now he's a CEO again, but like he's working on things to promote his daughter's new athletic wear business.
So embarrassing.
Yes. So that's Bronwyn. So almost torn apart, still together, those crazy kids. And this happened years ago, apparently. Years ago.
I am as underwhelmed with that news as I am with her on the show.
She's a very interesting character to me because she's the only one that I've ever seen be openly desperate to be on the show. I follow her on Instagram, and when she was right before the season aired, she posted a video of her shooting the title sequence with her family and said this long series, I think it was in her stories, this long series of them, how they were crying in the dressing room all day, how it was the best day of their lives, how they've waited so long for this moment, how they've never wanted anything more than to be on this show and all this stuff. And you can tell when during every episode, she'll start shit. And then immediately, as soon as people get mad at her, she's like, I totally own it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And it's like, so she tries her hand at this intense stirring of the pot or revealing information that she knows she shouldn't because she knows that's how the show works. Mm-hmm. And then it backfires and she realizes she has to see these people who are all higher on the totem pole than her every single day when they film. And she's like, I'm just kidding. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's the most interesting thing. And I think she's probably more open about it than most. I'm sure there's been other women who've been desperate to be on whatever cities and they've made it on, but she is openly thirsty about it. And it's very interesting to me.
Side note, who do you think is more thirsty this season, Bronwyn or Tamra, to stay on the show?
Tamra's, I don't even know how much cussing I can do on this show. I won't do it, but Tamra's not a good human.
That is an ongoing.
Universally agreed.
She's not a good human. And
Play
I think
those jingle bells.
she's been she's been on the show for so long, and she's become this pot stirrer character that she feels the need to be relevant on the show. The only way she can be relevant on the show is by revealing absolute BS whenever she can.
Garbage.
And it's so terrible. She is a really terrible person, and her son is a piece of
I mean, the fact that she's
Who?
stayed on this many years after Naked Wasted, can we just say is really troubling.
Yeah,
She
that
is-
should be like one and done for her, right? Or two and
I
done.
think
that
if
was
Naked Wasted had happened now,
now.
she would have been done.
Yeah, that was
Absolutely.
pre-Me Too, right?
It was very, very much so.
I think the only reason she's had her contract this long is that Naked Wasted happened so long
and no
ago.
one remembers.
And no
but
one
now
brings it
we've
up.
stirred it up.
But she thinks, though, she thinks that she is on the show because of that role. And so she's consistently trying to do it. It's really, really crazy. She's a terrible human.
So therefore, she might have the biggest ego in all of Bravo. We just have not been aware.
She's
of
just
it.
a fame. She really wants to be famous, and nothing that they do works. Now they're selling weed products and CBD stuff, and it's like nothing they do works. It's because she's a bad human. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in keeping with our OC theme for Bravo Breaking News, we of course have the divorce of
Yes,
Jim
juicy.
and Megan Edmonds. And the thing is that Megan thought they were going to couples counseling and was talking about how they were working on things. And like within hours, it comes out in the media that Jim has filed for divorce and Megan doesn't know. And
But now he's
but now
issued
it
a
seems,
statement.
but now he's issued another statement saying that he loves his wife so much, he didn't want to hurt her this way. So I can't quite tell from the new articles if he's backtracking. But in the meantime, the daughter that he had with Leanne on Housewives is like, I've been waiting for him to leave Megan for years, that bitch. Right. So like she can't stand Megan, but the other stepkids really like Megan.
the two young ones.
The two, the
Were
one she has in
Jim
the middle.
and Megan ever in the same relationship?
I mean, he always came off really horribly on the Housewives. And of course, what started this whole spiral, other than just Housewives drama, originally, is that when Megan was pregnant with her twins, he was having inappropriate
He had an affair.
text message relationships with somebody, and
No, come on, he had to have done more than
he
that.
says he didn't actually cross the line. I don't think Megan necessarily believes that.
She doesn't. She said that he was having physical relations before, during, and after.
But he says
the birth of the
he
children.
says he just made ill-advised text exchanges, is what he says, and so apparently he decided to like very hurriedly issue these divorce papers after a St. Louis Blues hockey game where he took one of the many nannies, but the nanny he took is like a 22-year-old girl. And he didn't tell Megan that he'd be taking a nanny
He
to
lied
the
about
Blues
it,
game.
she says.
So yeah, she's like, I had no idea. And so then she was like, are you sleeping with a nanny now? And so they're like, how dare you? It's a 22-year-old girl. But like Megan is a lot younger than Jim. So it wouldn't be totally unheard of. And he's like, no, she was hurting because her boyfriend broke up with her. So I was trying to be sweet to this girl, which I'm like, this is really bizarre, Jim.
It's
Like,
not the role that my boss plays in my life. but-
yeah, really odd. So this is the other Bravo breaking news. It's really unclear to me what's going to happen to them, other than the fact that I feel like they've always been like just two ships sailing in very different directions in the night. But Megan has really been left with the majority of the responsibilities for caring for the 3 children she has with Jim, and one of them has some severe disabilities.
Yeah, a brain injury.
Yeah, so she's been, jet setting across the country with Hart to try to help him with his medical issues.
I think she only ever wanted the children, though. I don't know that that's. I think she's fine with that. She consciously had children with someone who didn't want to go to IVF treatments with her, who was consistently rude to her in front of cameras, and whenever I see that house husband classic, like being a dick thing, I think it's so much worse than what we see because this is them knowing that someone's filming it.
Right. That's their best behavior.
This is their best behavior. And then Jim even said recently that that Housewives made him look bad, and so now everyone hates him, and she has all these fans, and so of course this divorce he's gonna look like a monster. And my thing is, you were on the show more than one season. If you really had a problem with editing, don't give them anything. Don't act so horribly to your wife in public if you are so afraid of how they're going to make you look in the editing room. These people, they can't help it. They're just so mean.
Not everybody can be Harry Hamlin.
No, that is true.
He's an actor. He's an actor extraordinaire. Because
That
I don't
needs to
believe
be a
that
new
relationship is that
tagline.
good.
Oh, really?
I don't.
Oh, interesting.
I've actually heard that, but I'm standing for the fact that it is as good as Lisa
Yeah.
and Harry make it out to be.
I'm sure that it's very, I'm sure they love each other very much. I don't think they don't see each other as much as
Right.
it seems like. I think they have very separate lives.
Well, how do you think about Kyle Maurizio's relationship?
That seems good. I think he's probably a bit of a crook.
Allegedly to all the lawyers that are
I do.
listening.
Yeah,
to this.
sorry. I think he's allegedly probably dabbled in some stuff.
But genuinely, probably
It
nice
seems like
to her.
they're very in love. Yeah. And exactly. That's a good example. How many seasons has he been on? 7, 8, 9?
And no
he's
one thinks
never
he's a
been
dick.
portrayed as a terrible person because he doesn't act like a terrible person. See,
Yeah.
that's the thing. These people are like, it's editing. It's like, you can't make up something that's not there.
Well, and even Ken came across as like a terrible person to other people, but he never came across as terrible to Lisa.
Never
Correct,
did he ever
yeah.
come across as terrible to
Yeah.
Lisa.
Everyone knows.
I mean, or another person that comes to mind is Terry Dubrow with Heather. Not as a terrible person, but like they had a relationship where he would always kind of like nudge her, and I never got, or like she would refer to it as like being like a little brother that would like always like poke.
Yeah,
poke
they're
him
not
on.
quite the Bickersons. They're not Adrian and what was his name?
oh
Paul.
gosh, that was
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, but Terry and Heather could kind of
yeah,
poke
it
at
was,
each
like,
other.
they
needling.
seem like they have a very real. Yeah, it seems like a pretty accurate portrayal. But
yeah.
Well, and I feel like with the Teresa and Joe, this was like the last piece of news. With this interview, they were just so real about the fact that I think they're heading for divorce. Melissa Gorga came out and said that, her and Joe would support whatever decision that her sister-in-law and brother-in-law made, but that they hope that they stay together because of the kids, but they understand it being healthy if they separate, which was like such a like taking the middle of the line because I have to give a story to the press, but like I don't want anyone yelling at me. But like, Joe was never good to Teresa.
no.
Like, and there was plenty of times where even before prison, he was caught with other women.
Well, on our tweet, I guess it wasn't my tweet. Whoever does our tweeting noted that, and I stand by this, that interview to me, Teresa is not nervous to see Joe. She is afraid to see Joe. Watch that interview again, and whenever she talks about the interaction they're about to have, she's like, well, I don't know. We haven't seen each other. That's not being nervous because you don't know if you're going to have sex with one another. Like to me personally, I saw kind of a level of fear in her eyes and uneasiness, not just we haven't seen each other in 4 years, but I've been independent. I've been doing this. I look good. I've been seen out with this other guy. I'm just saying that's what I saw.
There was
some nervousness.
there was something that seemed abusive as a viewer.
As someone who has her own PTSD with an abusive relationship, to me there were markers in her behavior, her eye set, everything. I would not be surprised if that
Interesting.
also was going through her mind.
That's such
because
a good
he
point.
is abusive. I mean,
Yeah.
we know this. We had the clip of him calling her a bitch. I think that she had that demeanor of someone who has gotten away, and you could almost see like her freedom closing back in on her. I think that's why she's nervous about seeing
Interesting.
him.
Wow.
I can't wait to see them.
Yeah,
when
Well,
she
and
goes
then-
I think
to
she's nervous.
Italy.
And one of
Yeah.
the few times that Andy has like been like, oh, I actually feel really bad about something, is that he said that it was an off the cuff like kind of thing that he brought up Caroline Manzo's prediction that Joe's going to go to prison, Teresa's going to get all
The
this
most
freedom, and she's
animated
going to
she
walk.
was the entire time.
And Caroline Manzo was then, made out by Teresa to be somebody who had their own history with corruption and prison and whatever.
Which is not a lie.
But Andy
Allegedly.
says
Probably not.
he should have defended Caroline in that moment because that's not quote unquote her past.
It is true. It's not Caroline's past. It's the family that she married into, allegedly. and their ties. So Andy, is that part of the news too? That Andy feels
that
like
was the wrap up with the Teresa story.
he feels like I actually do feel he should have.
Yeah,
I agree with Andy on that one because it wasn't
me too.
Caroline's past per se that we know about.
But the Manzo
It's
family.
the family she married
Allegedly.
into.
Yeah,
Allegedly.
Yeah.
mob
So
ties. Yeah.
We should just call this show Allegedly.
We should.
Wait, that's good. Allegedly Housewives.
Allegedly
We really
Housewives. That's like our gossip column live
Historians
The
on
hot gas.
Housewives, where we tell you everything allegedly.
show. Yeah, this is
So
good.
good.
That's
Bravo
copyrighted.
Bravo News allegedly.
But I do feel like Wendy Williams probably already would trademark that because that's all of her allegedly. And then she looks around at the audience.
I know.
I'm going to look into Allegedly Housewives, and I'm going to cut this out so that no one can take this, just so everyone knows.
Right. I don't want to be sued or hurt by anyone with any last names that begin with M and ends with Zoe. Cut it out.
Oh, I see.
So that's Bravo breaking news. So Martina, tell us what's next for you. What are you working on, and how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
I work at Cal State Fullerton. I'm very easy to find there, I think. I'm in the Cinema Television Arts Department. What am I working on? I'm working on, I'm doing a media literacy thing at the moment, a workshop for an upcoming conference just on how to get ahead of, how to talk about news and media studies classes ahead of the 2020 election when all we really talk about is how fake it is, and we don't talk about how you can actually glean information that's relative to your, how you're going to vote, instead, and just trying to understand how the media do produce news in this very tumultuous time. And I'm interested in getting into some stuff about sports. I'm sort of straying away from the Housewives for the moment, but not only in work, but not in play. I love the Housewives. I always used to say, as soon as I'm done with my dissertation, I'm never, ever watching another episode of Housewives ever again. Which my husband constantly reminds me of. Don't you remember when you said you were done with that? Like, I do, but I'm not. So it's actually much more fun to watch episodes when you're not taking notes on them. So it's something I love so much, and I'm sure I'll do more with later. But for the moment, I'm interested in media literacy and maybe some sports stuff. But yeah, I don't know. That's what's happening.
Our new theory, mine and Max's new theory, is that Housewives is really sports for people that don't do sports. Because you have your housewife that you root for. So you're actually on teams.
That's in line with what I say to my husband, because he loves Below Deck, but on the Housewives he gets annoyed with because of the fighting and the drama. And I say, but you guys are the Cullen commentary on sports is very dramatic, and there's always someone who's getting let go from a team who did drugs or who abused a wife or who whatever, they're getting traded, and some manager, if they don't win this game, they're going to get fired. It's very dramatic.
Yes.
And I always tell them, you have that. It's just in sports. Sports is very dramatic.
Totally.
It's just a different packaging.
It's
but
different,
the same.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it actually could be argued that sports is reality television because it's not
Isn't it?
scripted, it's not sets, and it's not professional actors.
So what does he make then of Kim and Lamar? Or Chloe and Lamar? Chloe and Lamar.
Oh, that was
right?
so long ago.
I know.
I don't know. It's a good question. I'll have to ask him.
Yeah.
He's more of a Kate Chastain guy, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank
It was
you.
so fun. I love it.
As always, you can find us at historiansonhousewives.com, where you can propose your own episode topic, ask us questions, or send us feedback. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at HistoriansH. We live tweet Sunday through Thursday. And don't forget that you can like and review the podcast on your preferred podcast platform. Thank you, Dr. Martina Baldwin. This show is brought to you with support by Barbara and Mark Spear, Saddleback Community College, Christina Hinkle, Christina Gamberpour, Jed Merlasky, Pete Murray, Yvonne Bellardes, Cody Baker, Molly Callahan, Dr. Joaquin Galarza, Courtney Crow, Laura Loper, Kim Bettendorf, and Luis Asio de Dios. And remember, scholars do Bravo too.